Yeah, I think we're good to go. I'll start the stream at 1 p.m. Eastern.
Got it. Looking for a chair.
And just a heads up, Warbucks and I will be dropping off after. I'll be dropping off at the beginning. Warbucks will be dropping off after emceeing.
Okay.
Well, I'll still be in the room to make sure everything's smooth, but you won't see me on screen.
Got it. See, stop sharing. Okay. Yeah, so where's the link we're going to be sharing with people? Are we going to drop it in the Telegram room?
Yeah, I think we should have. It should have been in the retweet link, if I'm not mistaken. But let me.
Got it.
Let me just
Okay.
make sure. I'll drop it again as well, just in case.
The Magic DAO retweet, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we should be live.
It says live, yeah. This is not like a Twitter stream. I can't see anybody else or anything.
Let me see if I can share this.
How do I know that there are other people in this room?
I've sent the links to the Telegram. I think we can get started.
Jordan, you can't just feel our presence here with you.
Wait, so there are there are actually like other people watching this? I just cannot see or hear them or feel them or see their little faces. Huh. I don't know. I feel like this is missing the tactile. This is missing the tactile sensation of a Twitter space. I love all the little faces. Oh well.
You love the little PFPs in the audience?
Yeah, all the little DGOs and the SMBs and the apes and everything. It feels nice. I miss them.
Now I guess we just kind of close our eyes and imagine about 80 to 100 people just listening in. All right.
Your mic's
cool. Shall we get started?
Your mic's cutting in. Yeah, your mic's going in and out though.
But you guys can hear me?
No, we hear you. It's just kind of junk.
All right, shit. Maybe it's the AirPods, but yeah, off. Don't worry. But just before we get into the hackathon, how's everyone doing? We've had a really tough week.
Yeah, it's been interesting. You know, the amuse-bouche of the library ruling, I honestly thought was going to be the worst thing that happened to me this week, but who would have guessed it can get worse?
Yeah, it's Web3, right? I mean, there's no such thing as a quiet week. Right?
Yeah. I think they're calling it Web3 because maybe it's a countdown timer. Like it just counts down towards 0. Maybe it's a bomb. I don't know. I guess the good news is like it could be worse, right? Like Solana as a technology could be flawed, but it's not. It just keeps chugging along. So the key technological premise of the cluster has not changed. So the work hasn't changed.
No, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. And I'm definitely using that, by the way. Like Web3 is a cat one, but that's a first. But yeah, thank you guys so much for hopping on. You know, really appreciate it. And thank you for hosting this workshop, for coming on and sharing what you guys are building. We've had great reception on the 4 previous workshops that we've had so far to bring you guys up here. So I know you guys are not building a particular growth enforcement tool, but it's really interesting. You guys are talking about revenue opportunities, and when we, I guess, summarize your project in a few words, you said car sales out of NFTs. Could you walk me through that? Like, what exactly was that about?
Yeah, sure. I made that up, so I guess I'll go into the details on that. I mean, so as far as a project as a whole, Raindrops protocol is really what we build here at Raindrop Studios, and that's really meant to be a series of on-chain contracts for enabling the gamification on top of NFTs and SFTs. But as far as the whole metaphor goes with used car sales, and Warbucks, your mic's doing some weird feedback. If you can mute. But the analog here is, so right now, royalties are really geared around the churn and the selling of NFTs, and for a lot of these NFT communities, right? It's about the community. It's about the people together making it something that is greater than just the picture that's on this token, right? You're basically buying access to a community and being a part of that development. So whenever you look at the current model, and the used car model is very similar, where you're only really making money whenever you're selling these NFTs, and that's not good for community, and that's not really good for the longevity of an actual project or NFT company as a whole, right? You want your users to stick around. You want your users to be happy and be engaged with your products, not that you make money when your users are fighting with each other or upset with things that you do, and then they leave. So with Boots, which is one of the primary applications on Raindrops around the PFP collection side of things, we're trying to make it be more about engagement with your NFTs. So making it so that collections, and then also with Boots as well, you can have artists that are external to the NFT company and stuff like that, be able to create a revenue stream off of people using the NFTs and the things that these NFT communities create. So instead of you buy an NFT and it just sits in a closet, if you will, thinking about the real, like the original in real life art side of things, you actually want to be able to use these things on a daily basis and that sort of thing. Sorry, getting over a cold, so if I hit some brain walls, it's because of that. But yeah, so with Boots, we want to make it so that you have a recurring revenue stream. You're not having to spit out new art every single day like Google to be able to make revenue off of the sales of things. So as you come out with new, in this case, traits and new things that the collection can dress onto their base PFP, you have a revenue stream that happens each time somebody equips or unequips one of these items, and that actual revenue goes to the NFT collection, but then also the NFT collection, if they have external artists, can also distribute a percentage of that to the actual artists that created the traits. And this is something that's actually enforced by both the Boot service and the Raindrops protocol on chain. So it's not something like the current royalties array, the current creators array, right, which is a social contract side of things, not actually enforceable in any way. That's our approach on it. And okay, that's not fix my mic. Good. So as far as the sustainability of this, right? Like instead of doing the one time basically you sell it and that's how the collection makes money. We envision people doing things like seasonal trait collections or external brands. So you have, say, Nike or something like that comes out with a tracksuit, and you happen to have an NFT collection that wants to be able to have their collection owners or their collection holders be able to wear that suit. That's the kind of recurring sort of model that we see. It's more about as people are getting more and more value to the community, there's more and more revenue generation possible through the use of these things these communities have access to. And then the other big driver of this model is, you know, with a lot of collections, whenever they run out of money or whatnot from their primary collection, like they'll drop another collection, you know, some sort of either a second gen or something along those lines to kind of keep the keep the runway going. And that's really not a sustainable model. It like dilutes your community on as one thing, and then also it's more now for your company to manage if you're, you know, as an NFT company and that sort of thing. So instead of having to drop a new collection each time with Boots, and actually something that we're going to be experimenting with down the road with some other collections, is the idea of actually infinite mints, where, you know, these base PFPs aren't necessarily the part that actually make this rarity that exists with current NFTs, but it's actually the combination of the traits that define the rarity, and then we can have sub collections based on the combination of traits, right? You can kind of see this a little bit with what Frank is doing with the Utes sub DAOs, right? With the nouns, glasses, and that sort of things. We feel like the bigger the community actually is more valuable for the collection as a whole, and then within that community you can build these actual rarities based on these traits, right? So external companies, like I was saying with Nike, you know, they can have a very limited drop of these actual tracksuits, and then based on that, you know, you have this exclusive group within that collection that is the tracksuit DAO, or the Nike tracksuit DAO, or something like that. And that's where you can maintain this notion of combinatorial rarity and that sort of thing. And then, you know, as far as these external brands, right, it's a lot of work to actually maintain an NFT community, an NFT company. They really are like the time involved is like a full-time business. So with these brands having the ability to really do these experiments with these collections, you know, they have a much lighter touch point of being able to just create some new art, offer it up to these NFT collections, and then the collection can generate more revenue from that. And you know, we feel like that's a much easier thing for these Web2 brands to be able to kind of dabble into the Web3 space and not get burnt nearly as intensely as they would if they were, you know, rolling out a whole new collection where it's a partnership with Adidas for a shoe or something like that. So that's another thing that we're thinking that Boots will be able to help with. And then under the hood, Boots uses the Raindrops protocol. So if your NFT collection is using Boots, and Pitt will actually show you some tools that we have that will enable any NFT collection to be a part of this experience, but you're actually using Raindrops players, which enable you to then further make your NFTs have gamified experiences. So things like JSP was actually talking about, you know, a cross-community Monopoly game or things along those lines, right? So just inherent in having Boots, you have all this gamification that's possible. Some other people that are doing, you know, trait swapping, it kind of stops at the trait swapping level where you just change the image. But with Raindrops and Boots, you know, it's a story beyond on just that side of things. So that's kind of my spiel at the beginning. Pitt and JSP, if you had anything you wanted to add.
I think Warbucks died. Yeah, I think
Speaking of Monopoly.
Yeah. Yeah, Daddy Warbucks is dead. Yeah, so something else we also like to add is like, you know, Boots is a little more than a technology stack. It's also it's a for-profit enterprise being operated by Raindrops Studios, and so it's a product, and this product has a sales and support arm. That sales and support arm is called GJI. It's a separate enterprise that just focuses on only that. It's run by this guy named Dustin. You may know him as CEO. You know, if you're running an NFT company, it's not like we're just dropping a bunch of documentation at your feet and expecting you and your developer to just pick it up and implement this to get on Boots. You know, you actually get like a full-fledged customer relationship where we will actually work with you. We have solutions engineers. You know, we will help you get on the platform. We will do as much of the work as possible to get you there. There is, of course, some work that you need to do, you know, because you have the update authority keys. to get you on the platform. But once you're on the platform, then you're eligible to use it, and then you're also sort of part of this journey that we're taking. I view it as a product journey, like we're discovering things that people need, and so all the new features that we build that, like Andrew said, use the Raindrops protocol, for instance, traits that expire after 3 uses, seasonal traits that wither away after 3 weeks, things like that. You automatically get access to those, and you get access to them through the customer relationship you've built with Dustin and his crew. This organization that exists solely to help foster that relationship. So it's not just a piece of technology. It's not just a platform. It's also this relationship that you have with Dustin, and with us, and with all the brands that we know. So like Andrew said, you may want to work with a big Web2 brand. Well, chances are we might actually know them. If you don't have the time or the wherewithal to build the art because your artist is left, well, we also have artists. We have Monolith. Monolith might be able to build your traits. Those traits may be from Supreme. You just have to bring the eyeballs from your community. If you're already on Boots, you've got them. It's a nice little, connection where we all are able to end up better off commercially because of these things. So the way we view it is this new trade economy is not just another piece of technology that you write a document on and you publish it, and it's like this open source code that everyone can use. It's not really that. It's a new collaboration between the NFT companies, the artists, us, to try to create a future where everyone can actually benefit. So yeah, that's how we're sort of angling to have it happen. And we're looking to do product discovery through asking the NFT companies what they want to do. Because people have interesting ideas.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go next, Andrew?
I'm in JSB, so I want to also highlight JSB up here. So he's one of the white glove people that Pitt had mentioned with GJI, and and it is really, I think, important to highlight that aspect that Pitt had mentioned with it's not just a technology. It really is like an entire service that's from end to end. Having somebody like JSB and the rest of the team to be able to actually both listen to the needs of your collection and then bring it up to the protocol engineers as well for Raindrops to possibly be able to add things to this protocol to really enhance the experience, because that's really what this is all about in the end of the day, is the actual experience and the ability for these NFT collections to really sustainably survive. So JSB, just want to give you a chance to say hi and what you want to talk about with Boots.
Yeah, I think what's really fun is like working with us kind of helps you be less risky, right? So a brand like Supreme or Nike might not want to interface with you, just a single collection, but the power of being associated with our entire group kind of helps put you in a position where your collection is just less risky to work with. We have more backing. We have the technical capabilities and talent behind us and the artists behind us to really make those things happen and do it in a way that the quality is there those brands want to work with. And I think on my end, getting to interface with a lot of projects now, we get to be the dreamers. We get to say, hey, like our goal in what we're building with Raindrops is to say, hey, we're not going to have all the brilliant ideas. We're just going to make some of the framework and the rails where those brilliant ideas can come. And so it's fun for me to hear from projects who have thought of things that I'm never going to think of, and being able to consider that idea and say, yeah, we can pull that off. Hey, we can do that. Hey, have you considered this or that? I think even the last week we've come up with a dozen new ideas of, like this is super possible because we have this or because we have that. Hey, we could actually do this. And that's really exciting because I think for our space, we are a community. Sometimes it feels like we fight among each other, but the reality is we're all just trying to do cool stuff. And I think what we're doing here really gives creators and collections and artists and people who are making these communities some more tools to build sustainable business models and do cool stuff. And we're here to help make that a reality.
Sweet. All right, Pitt, you want to dive into maybe a little bit of some examples of some stuff. Maybe we can show for people that may not have a DTP or a pores what the Boots UI actually looks like.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
see
Let's
an
take,
example.
Or even
take a
know
look.
like what does it mean to be booted up?
Yeah, so let's start with that. Also, I'd like to say that today, kind of a hallmark moment. Before today, to boot up your collection, there was kind of a messy series of steps you had to do with a CLI, a command line tool, as an NFT project before you could get sort of your NFTs booted up. But as of today, so now JSB will be able to do all of that for you. So at docs.raindrops.xyz, there's this boot up section where there's like this command line tool with 4 steps you have to run through, where you have to sort of do all this stuff to boot up your NFTs. You no longer have to do that. JSB can do all of that, and his life will suck instead of your life. The only thing that NFT companies will have to do today is they'll have to set up a Lambda on their own AWS instance holding their signer key so that things can be signed. And they'll basically have to hand over PNG files representing each of their layers, like in a folders, so that we can basically make the SFTs representing each layer and feed our image generator. So we're basically working every day to lower the onboarding process. Yeah, let's go talk about what it means to be booted up. So I am going to start with let's see, where should we start? We should start with let me open up the Raindrops docs, and we'll just sort of start there. Let me open up.
And also to highlight the client signer piece that Pitt actually mentioned is very important to the whole idea of still having like this decentralized product that the collections still own their keys and still have the holding of the actual update authority. So that's why that piece is actually important. And it kind of sounds like a technical like whatever, but it's really important to make sure that there isn't this one central company, Raindrop Studios, that is basically holding all the keys in these collections at hostage, if you will.
Yep, here we go. So let's start with this. So we'll stay here very briefly, but essentially each NFT today is a very sparse piece of data. An NFT on Solana is essentially, when I wrote the original token metadata program, Bartosz and I decided to make it very simple. It was essentially a URL pointing to some off-chain data and a creators array and some other minor pieces of information. Not a lot, right? What Boots enables to do is what it endeavors to do is it endeavors to take the Raindrops protocol, which allows you to define any player class on chain and any item class on chain, so that you can build like D&D games if you wanted, like Dungeons and Dragons. And it endeavors to build a game where the game is, items are traits and players are NFTs, and their body parts are essentially like the attributes, right? And so it essentially tries to build these player classes using these axioms, and it tries to build them out. And you can find out sort of how the player contract looks and how the item contract looks by visiting docs.raindrops.xyz if you really want to dive in. This is sort of how these structures look on chain if you're really interested. Like players can have equipped items. All players have body parts and basic stats. Basic stats are sort of, like they can be strings or integers, and we use them to define attributes that don't change, and we use body parts to define attributes that do change. And a body part could be something like your glasses, and then an SFT could be an item that could be equipped to it. So you'll have like a body part here, and it has like a number of spots. So you could, in theory, have glasses that could have 2 things equipped. And so you can read all about it here. But the end result is that you can define these player classes for each NFT in existence, where you can define all of the changeable attributes and all of the non-changeable attributes. And I'll show you what one looks like. Let me just share that part of my screen. I'll show you what the pandas look like. Let's see. Gotta go. We'll go with this. Open this file. Make sure I have it open before I go sharing my screen because it will confuse people. Here we go. Got it open. Okay, now I'm going to share screen again. All right, how do I do that entire? Can I do a window? There we go. Getting the hang of this. It's like Zoom. Okay, so this is the JSON config for a player class representing a panda. So default category panda. So this is a trash panda, right? And if any of you have taken Java in high school, you'll understand the concept of a class. It's like a blueprint for a type of thing, and this is a blueprint for a panda. And basically, the goal here is I'm trying to define a blueprint for panda attributes. And there are two types of panda attributes. There are those that change and those that don't. And so what I decided to do was I decided to have in my basic stats section the fur in the background, and I decided to just make them stat type string. So I'll just set them to something and I'll never change them. They're just stats. You know, it's like being labeled a warlock or something, you know, on your Dungeons and Dragons sheet. That's all there is. And then I gave it body parts. I had 5 different body parts, one for each type of thing that changes. If you have a panda, you're familiar with these attribute types: mouth, head, body, dumpster, glasses. Like dumpster is the thing that wears, you know, that wears the hoodies, right? And when you create this class in Raindrops, what it says is that if you instantiate any player out of this class, you now have this player has body parts that can have things equipped, and you can create items that can be equipped to this particular body part, dumpster. And actually, we have in this file the config for such an item. So if you go to the very top of this, if you go to this red section, this red is actually what we call the red hoodie. Like for some reason, we named the red hoodie red on chain. If you look at its class definition, its item class definition, we record that it has a use. Its usage is that it's wearable, and it's only wearable on the body part of dumpster. So you can see you can have an item class for the red hoodie. So when you instantiate a red hoodie, it can only fit on the body dumpster part. And the contracts for item and player sort of work together to orchestrate this thing happening. And ultimately, what you end up with is you end up with being able to look at a player. Let me see if I can actually player. Let's see. I had this open. Show player. So this is a panda. So there's just CLI you can run where you can actually see what players look like. So what I just did was I ran show player with the panda mint. So this is a specific panda on chain. I passed in its mint address and some other arguments, and I'm able to see what the actual instantiated player looks like. So this player was an instance of that player class that I made earlier, and I can see that it has 3 equipped items. These equipped items represent tokens that represent traits on chain. I can see its 2 string values, background and fur. I can see what their actual values are. He has a black smirk scar and a black background. And I can see the body parts that he's got are the body parts given. And the reason I show all this is to show that, like, you know, on chain, we actually have the traits and the equipped items all in a systematically stored way, so that if we were to build a web service, you know, somewhere, that web service could actually be used to recalculate images. And that's exactly what Boots is. All the Boots API is it is a web service that when you take this on-chain data that represents the player and you show it to this API will see that the on-chain data doesn't match the image or does match the image. And if it doesn't match the image, it will try to change the image. And then it does. And that's when you hit the refresh image button or you save, it does that. And I'm going to now show you that screen. So let's go to Boots, boots.raindrops.xyz. I'm going to open the page. Let me select the Mango wallet that I'm in. Make sure everything's loaded up. Yep. Phantom.
Share the screen, Pat.
Yeah, I was getting it up so I could share it. So now I'm going to show you. Let's see if I'm actually using the right. I think that's the right one. I have two. I'm not sure if I'm on localhost or not. Yeah, okay, this is the live one. Okay, so what this website's doing is it's actually looking on chain for those data structures that I just showed you and seeing for the given NFTs in my wallet. Do these data structures exist? Like, are there any NFTs with players? Okay, do they have players? All right, well, can I display them? And it does. And so I'm clicking manage on the Trash Panda, and you can kind of see how the data structures I showed you translate to this UI. This equipped section is literally the equipped items picture or the equipped items text that I showed you earlier. That's the equipped items. There's also this ability for players to carry around their own NFTs. You can transfer NFTs to the player. But yeah, like if I were to click refresh image, what would happen is this would hit an API endpoint where it would try to compare the actual NFT image to that player data on chain. And if they didn't match, it would actually change the NFT image. And the reason that I mentioned the client signer earlier is that the only way that this website can change the NFT image of this panda is if the NFT panda company owner made that key available through some other Lambda, which is why all the NFT companies have to work with JSB to set up their signing authority somewhere so that we can hit that endpoint to get permission to change the image when the data doesn't match. Because ultimately what you're doing here when you click this unequip button is you're first changing the on-chain data that represents the player. And then after that's done, you're going to this other place and you're saying, hey, the player no longer matches. Can you change the image? And then it goes to the NFT company and says, hey, the image doesn't match. Can you give me permission to update the image? And the NFT company says, sure, you can update the image now, but fucking pay me. and they pay. So yeah, let's just go through the preview process and I'll show you how it works. So preview process is just hitting an image generator, the same image generator that's used to actually generate the image change, but no money is actually spent at this point. And then the pandas actually using. Oh, go on. Yeah.
I would say that separation is important for people to understand, like why it's actually separate, so that the player data being changed, like it could be a game that is actually using that player object, right? That has authority from the collection to be able to, do things like, make the usage of a sweater or something the health of it go down, basically based on results of the game and stuff like that. And then they don't have to necessarily deal with updating the image. We have this API is able to read that, okay, well, that player's data has changed, now let's change how the image actually looks, and that side of things. So that's why there's this disconnect, is that it's more than just Boots with dressing up the avatars to have different things. There's the ability for these games to tap into this data on these players and to be able to actually modify them with the permission of the NFT collection to then have it actually be something that's a visible change down the road as well.
Yep, and it's possible to separate. So like this particular NFT is currently the permission to update the player is the same as the permission to update the NFT. But it's possible, like in future NFT collections with the newer technology we have, the permission to update the player is actually separate from the permission to update the NFT. So the game developer could sort of have the booted collection, and the booted collection, the players are changing with their own private keys, as much as they want. And then when they want to do a permissions update, they then have to go to the NFT company and get permission to change the image. So separate permissions, which is nice to have. And that's sort of what we I literally just finished making today. It allows for more flexibility in the permission structure. So yeah, there you go. He's fully updated. And we just, by the way, and I just paid the Trash Pandas 0.8 Sol and the platform 0.02 Sol. Not quite as much of a bang as it was, a few days ago, but this is a revenue generating opportunity for the NFT company. And me as the user, I got value out of it because now the NFT is it's more, I identify it with it more. You know, I customized it more to my liking. You know, so I think it's a much better interaction for users than you know, just selling NFTs for profit. You know, which is kind of a negative interaction where the user leaves the ecosystem and you know, then you get paid, which kind of sucks. So yeah,
and also that sweater that sweater that was taken off was actually created by a community artist, and that community artist and the Degen Trash Panda community collection does have an agreement that they also receive a portion of that 80% that Pip was talking about. So the artist is getting paid for that, the collection is getting paid for that, and that's the whole thing.
Yeah. So yeah, we could talk about sort of the economics here. So I kind of have them on hand. So we had two different art collections debut for Halloween, as an example, and one of them made, I think, $10,000, and the other one made $20,000. You know, the platform, I think, made, I don't know, a few $1,000s in fees from people, you know, doffing and adding these traits, and then from the 10% cut that we agreed upon with DTP made 10% of each of those amounts. So each of the artists, Monolith and Soulfiend respectively, you know, each got to walk away with sizable sums of money without having to start a whole new NFT company. They literally just made traits and then sold them. And then they both have Hydra wallets, which are like these split fee wallets, where every time someone uses the traits, instead of the money going directly to DTP, it goes to this Hydra wallet, which then splits the funds between DTP, the Trash Panda company, and the artist. So they continue to make residual funds like royalties, plus the initial drop money, and they made quite a bit of money from doing these Halloween drops. And each NFT company can have their own deals with these separate artists doing their own drops, and sort of making money without having to do as much work. Like normally an NFT company has to do all the work to do a drop, but now they just have to keep the community alive and maintain the eyeballs. And artists come in and do most of the work, and then the NFT company just takes a smaller cut. So it's just a different model, which is much more interesting. And those artists, I think they ended up, we asked them like how much they ended up making an hour, and it turns out they were making like essentially $100 an hour, which for, you know, not, you know, if you're not a lawyer, that's a lot of money. So yeah, it's a decent model.
And it's just the start of the model, really. You know, we can start doing things like loyalty programs. We can start doing things like, you know, more dynamic NFT traits or trait upgrades or evolution of traits, or, you know, like right now, I think a lot of people get wrapped up in it just being about playing dress up. And that might be the case, at least just for this moment right now. But all this moment is doing is proving out the underlying technology and the capabilities we have of the mechanics. Like the mechanics are what's important. And once we get those worked out to where they're reliable and fast and cheap for us to do, yeah, it'll really open up the doors for a lot of creators to do things that are probably more interesting than just playing dress up.
Yeah, we basically built this as the dumbest possible use case.
Yeah.
That we're gonna expand the borders. Like I think if we have time in December or January, we're planning to do like something with mutations and usable items, where you can use Raindrops items on your, because the protocol lets you use items on your NFTs. So right now we're wearing items, but you can also use them. So we plan to do something there with the usable items where we expose that in the UI, and you can actually collect and use the items. There's also recipes. You can craft items from other items. So with the trash pandas, for instance, we have a bunch of trash lying around and rugs. So we're probably going to do some sort of thing where you can combine them together in exotic ways to get rare items that will, you know, permanently mutilate your panda in interesting ways. You know, things like that, so that we can prove out the model and then make it available to others who are part of the collective of companies that have signed on for this system. So it's, you know, it's cool stuff. I think Who else has anything else to cover? Andrew, you got anything?
No, I think that takes care of everything on my end.
JSB?
I think people should know next steps. Like if you're interested, run a collection, about to start a collection. We've had some interesting ideas around that. Of if you are pre-mint on a collection, we've got some great ideas of how to start leveraging this technology before you mint in a way that sets you up for success to like get the full power out of it. We got a few in the pipeline that we're pretty excited about. So if that's you, reach out. Twitter, oh gosh, we're everywhere. So if you reach out anywhere, we'll probably, we'll get in touch.
Yeah, so that's a good point. If you have a collection that hasn't minted yet, it's serious that you talk to us before you actually generate those images, because we can seriously set you up for good revenue success. Please reach out to me, Pit the Panda, Andrew, who is at Aslong on Twitter, or JSB, also at CEO, another option. Any one of us can put you into the funnel to sort of get you into a Telegram chat, or we could start the process of getting you onto the platform and starting a customer relationship. And we'd love to talk with you. I think that covers all of it. I just have to mention here that apparently there are some people that are just dripping for the Magic DAO code. The good news is that the Magic DAO code is actually drip. So there you go, guys. Drip away.
That was so clever.
I know. I'm a dad. What can I say? You guys like my little dude today? Yeah. I mean, hey, look, it could have been like, like I love MetaShield or something, but we're more clever than that. Yeah. All right. I think that does it. So if anyone has any questions, we have time for questions. So I can see in this chat box, I don't know where the chat is coming from. Does anyone have any questions for us? It could be about the Degeneraverse. It can be about Boots. It could be about Raindrops. It can be about, we can answer limited questions about Magic Edens. We're just besties with them. And we love them to death, but that's about it. For what it's worth, Warbucks is my favorite Magic Eden Twitter presenter when he has working headphones. But yeah, it sounds like we have no questions. So we're gonna end the stream.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all, for your time.